Hi, I'm Chris Martirano here with American Music and Sound, and once again with our great friends at Kraft Music, the home of those amazing bundles. Make sure you check out the bundles for exceptional value. I'm going to be showing you Modal's instrument called the Carbon 8. This is a very unique instrument. They call it an experimental synthesizer, and after working with it for just a few short weeks, I understand why. I'm going to cover a few of the specifications and then we'll get right into sound. It features two unique oscillators. Each oscillator can generate virtual analog style waveforms and then also wavetable waveforms. The beauty of these though are these are morphable waveforms. So let's say you start with a triangle wave, you can morph it smoothly into a sawtooth. It's when you start to actually work with the wavetables and morph through these wavetables, you're actually going to hear that this is very different than just sweeping through a wavetable. You're literally morphing through the harmonic content of these unique waveforms. You'll hear it sonically, it'll speak better than the words I'm using right now. You can then use oscillator 1 or oscillator 2 to modulate the other oscillator, getting interesting sidebands and very incredibly potent, I want to say, sonic results. If you remember back to phase distortion or FM, you can create sounds very reminiscent of that, but then also some very unique sounds. They call this an algorithmic construction. So when you select these patches, they're going to call up a variety of these oscillators that are then being modulated, and then they're run into a filter section, which is equally as interesting. You have a huge variety, 30 different filter types. And in those filter types, you have, of course, the standard 1-pole, 2-pole, 4-pole, low pass, high pass, band pass. But then you have these interesting ones that are vocal formats. You have some that are phaser, they're called. Very unique qualities and timbres. And the cool thing is you can morph through these variety of filters in real time as well. So the combination of morphing through these oscillator shapes and these filter shapes are what gives this a unique character. Then you have 3 LFOs. The LFOs have a huge variety of waveforms, not just your standard sine, saw, triangle, square, but very unique. And then they can be morphed. The waveforms themselves for the LFOs can be morphed. So 3 different LFOs. They can run in re-trigger mode, meaning each time you strike a key, it starts at the beginning of the phase of the LFO, or single trigger, which means it'll act as a one-time only, or free running. So any 3 of them can be running in any of those 3 modes. Then to cap it off, they move into the envelopes. You have 3 envelopes, one dedicated to filter, one dedicated to amplitude, and one as a modulation envelope. These also have the ability to run in an inverted mode. And then they have a variety of slope selections like snap or exponential. They've put an awful lot of thought into it. It kind of feels like a modular in many senses. I'm running their editor on a Mac here, and you'll see a lot of graphic information displayed simultaneously on the editor. To cap things off, they're thinking about the real world as well and interfacing with other product. So of course you have MIDI DIN plugs, you have MIDI over USB, but then they have a sync output and an input for clock over an 1/8" jack. There's also an audio 1/8" jack input. So a lot of cool stuff, input for CC pedal and for a sustain pedal. So I think I've covered kind of the general information. If you want to see more, of course, there'll be spec sheets you can look at. I'd rather get into the sound right now. So I'm going to start by letting you hear some of the patches that I've loaded in. By the way, you can load in 500 patches, which is cool. And I do want to mention there's an arpeggiator that is fairly sophisticated. That's also very cool. And then a sequencer. The sequencer can run in real-time mode, or it can run in step sequencer mode, and you can capture and contain up to 100 of those sequences, and you can also have up to 100 of different arpeggiations. So it's a lot built into a package that I have to say, coming out of the box, you can't believe the weight because it's built out of extruded metal. Even the end caps are a specific kind of wood that's very tough. Everyone says built like a tank. I'm going to say this is seriously built like a tank. The weight will blow your mind for a 37-note keyboard. Really built very well. So here's the first program I'm going to show. It's so much fun. It begs to be edited. So as I'm playing, I want to be turning things and controlling it, which is a lot of the fun of an instrument like this. So some of the programs I'm playing, I will just get involved in editing them in real time, and you can hear kind of some of the possibilities. This one is showing an LFO that is delayed and comes in after the initial sound and creates a very cool pulsing. It's a very, very sonically alive instrument. I'm going to go on to a couple other patches. What you're hearing also are some of the great effects. There's 3 effect slots. Each effect slot can run a variety of different effects from chorusing, phasing, flanging, rotary speaker, compression, reverb, and others. So it's a powerhouse for an instrument that's 8-voice. I want to mention that also. But it's very, very powerful what you can do with those 8 voices. So let's have a little fun with the arpeggiator. I'm going to show you a program first without an arpeggiation turned on, and then I'm going to create the arpeggiation and then see how it influences the program. It's not just what you would imagine as note up and down or up, up, down, down. So here's the program without the arpeggiation. Now I'm going to hold the arpeggiation button down and play a series of notes, and then we'll see how that influences the sound. Very, very cool what it's doing. It's actually using those steps to move the entire pattern that I'm holding down, the entire chord, to move it around in a pattern. Of course, you can set different tempos. You can play different notes if you'd like something a little interesting. And then listen back to that. I'm speeding it up. So if you're looking to do anything film-like or ethereal, some kind of a just shimmering background for something you're working on, you can get those kinds of timbres out of here very simply. I'm going to go back and check out some of the kind of beautiful high-end in this bell program you can hear. They call them high-res oscillators, and they certainly are. I'm going to go to the editor now and show you a little bit about what's going on. Here's a program making great use of LFOs and the arpeggiator. So what you can see on the screen is real-time morphing of the filter. I'm just going to show you a little presentation of the oscillators singularly, and then also let you see what the filter looks like. So right here, we have oscillator 1, and it's using a waveform called pinch WT4. As I put my cursor on the top menu, I can move to a variety of different wavetables. And once I see a wavetable I like, by using my sync amount, I can scroll through the wavetable, and you can see, let's just single one out from a blank patch, and we'll hear it. So you can hear we can dial in specific harmonics where we want, and there are many, as I said, so many different wavetables. We're hearing a single oscillator. I'm going to use this sound, and now I'm going to go to my second oscillator. I'll shut off the first one and turn up the second one, and I'm going to pick a different waveform. Okay, now I'm going to mod between them using a ring modulator. Now I can put all these parameters of modulating and moving through these wavetables under the control of LFOs. So I can start to get automated movement going on. And it's really simple. Down here you have a matrix. So on the bottom I can select what I want to use. I'll use LFO1. And on the top I want to use oscillator 1 contour. So we'll just hear oscillator 1 and we'll control how much we want to hear. So this is a particularly plain waveform. We'll go to something a little more interesting. Something like this. Now I'm using a very plain LFO shape. If I go down, I'm using a sine wave. If I step through these, there's triangle, clamp, square, squeaky, ramp shaped. So as I start to then adjust depth in these, I can take my mouse and start to play with the shape of what I'm seeing. I'm re-triggering this LFO. I'll go to one that's a little more complicated. More sample and hold like. I'll bring level 2 oscillator back up. I'll detune it a little bit. And I'll start to run it through a filter. I'm going to throw an effect on it like a chorus. So I'm just building something real time here. The power of this instrument is really well represented in the 300 programs loaded in. As you step through them, you'll hear things that sound analog, analog leads, analog basses. But their real point in making this is to make an instrument that can make sounds that are experimental. And that's why they call it an experimental synthesizer, because there's so many fields you can play with. Again, once I use a step sequencer, I can have a step sequence play in the background, and we'll just listen to something like that. This is a different program. You'll notice that the clear out, just as a point from a player's perspective, it's unitimbral. That means that it transmits on a single MIDI channel. And when you switch program to program, it isn't a smooth transition. You literally will hear the last program clear out and the new program load in. But in this kind of class instrument, this is really a well thought out, sorry, one more time. Yep. In this class of instrument, it's a well thought out compromise, as the DSP is really being used for the most part in the creation of single patches. The idea isn't to combine multiple programs. Let's do something with the sequencer. I'm going to play a real-time sequence in right now and then play over the top of it. So you can hear that's a very cool thing. If I now turn the arpeggiator on at the same time, I can really get some very evocative program going here. So you get an idea of just the crazy amount of control you have over changing the sound and the nature of the sound. The Carbon 8 was designed specifically for this purpose, for people who want to create unique and interesting sounds. I don't want to imply that you can't create, an analog trumpet sound or an analog bass sound good for hip hop or dance records. But if you were into groups like Depeche Mode or some of the older groups that were a little bit more experimental, maybe Kraft work, there's a lot of sonic landscape here to explore. And I think you'll find, like I did, that in a very short time, you're going to be kind of addicted to find out, what can I really do? As the possibilities are quite limitless. So this is Carbon 8 by Modal. Be sure to check out their other instruments, argon and cobalt. Very cool instruments. For more information, be sure to contact your sales advisors at Kraft Music.